All right. Hello, hello. And this is Suzanne DeWitt Hall. I'm an author and the co-parent of the Where True Love Is movement. And we're back again today. I talked with Mix Nikki Endres about a week or so ago in honor of Transgender Day of Remembrance. And our interest was so piqued by that conversation and by watching Nikki's comedy special, which I'll mention again after the rest of the introductions, that we needed to have another conversation. So here we are. And this time it's not just me, it's also the fantastic.
I am Declan, and my pronouns are he and him. I am the other co-creator of Where True Love Is movement. I'm a social media strategist, community builder. Most importantly, I think that I'm a spouse, a dad, a nanpa, and I am transgender, transmasculine.
And a dog parent, because we gave the dog treats, but they are undoubtedly going to interrupt us.
They
so
will
just
show their face.
They always. And so Nikki, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicky Endres. My pronouns are they and she. I am an artist. I'm an actor, comic, and audiobook narrator. And I am not a dog parent, but I am a dog auntie.
Oh, wow.
I just got done meeting a new member of the family for the family that I dog sit for. And he's huge. I'm used to like small dogs. He's huge, but he's got a huge heart too. But you know, he's like, he cuts off my circulation because he wants to cuddle and sit in my lap, and then I can't feel my feet anymore.
Large lap dogs are a challenge. Yeah, so after we spoke last time, we watched your comedy special that's airing on Prime, and it's called The Asian Americanized Comedy Special. Is that I know it's
Asian Americanized, an immigrant comedy special.
Oh, okay. It was so much fun, and there's several comics with sharing their perspectives and their humor. But we're paying most attention to yours because that's why we learned about it, and your candidness and sheer audacity to be yourself out loud and admit it really got initially us thinking in our separate brains and then coming together in conversation about how wonderful it is. Do you want to say anything?
Well, I think that we both kind of gasped and got pretty quiet. I'm telling you, your guns, because of your balls, blew me away. I was like, whoa, that's good. Because, in the FTM world, you don't see people admitting anything about their bodies. They want the body that society wants them to have. So to be able to say, I've got this or I've got that, that's bold, and that's really good. And I was like, when I grow up, I want to be Nikki. Because there were things you said and you said your what I call dead name or
necronym.
Yeah, that's what I called it earlier. Necronym. I have trouble with that.
I say birth name.
And you said it, and I was like, whoa, to be that free and feel okay with that, I thought it was great. Your boldness blew me away. And we both kind of sat there and went, whoa.
Yeah. So in talking about this, we realized that the three of us have very different, I think, approaches to our gender identity and different comfort levels. So for me, my pronouns for now, at least, are she, they, and I'm non-binary in identity and increasingly non-binary in presentation, gender presentation. And I'm comfortable with that and comfortable with the exploration. And I think it's going to continue shifting. For me, it's largely intellectual as a decision to reject what kind of the bullshit that gender can bring, gender constructs and gender expectations can bring. So mine is sort of a conscious effort to just simply be. And so Declan, maybe you can tell us more about what yours is, but what my perception was, that here I am kind of figuring it out and comfortable in that. We have what you appear to be, and it'll be interesting to hear what you say, in your own response to this, is that you've kind of figured it out and you're comfortable, right? So I haven't figured it out. I'm comfortable. You have figured it out and you are comfortable. And Declan has figured it out, but is not terribly comfortable. So here are these three different, very different perspectives. And you've got also masculine um, and sort of non-binary with you femme leaning. So we just thought it would be a fascinating discussion and calling it kind of under the umbrella for people on this last day of the Transgender Awareness Month to talk about the umbrella, to talk about these different perspectives, and yeah, just have this conversation. So
I
thanks for being
absolutely
willing to
love
do
that.
that.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was a brilliant idea, and I'm just chuffed to be here because especially given that it's awareness month, I think that definitely something I talk about in my special that or my section in the special I did with my
Right.
friends, our special, my set, I should say, is that visibility and trans and queer joy and empowerment are so important that visibility and awareness because it shows us what is possible. And even because I really do think I'm with Elok when they say that we are the vanguards of culture, that we are birthing and creating and synthesizing things that maybe don't have language yet, but
Mm,
are lived experience within us. And that can be tricky to navigate, because language, words, I talk about this in my set, is how we make sense of the world. It's how
right.
we assign meaning. And so when there isn't a word that you feel really describes you, it's easy to start believing the bigotry and the hate and the
Mm,
misunderstanding that says we don't have value, or we don't deserve to exist, or we don't deserve to be happy, or we don't deserve to have equal rights. And so I think that both as an act of love and generosity, as well as self-defense, our own empowerment, confidence, and embracing of ourselves and living out loud
yeah.
the greatest ability that we can and still maintain our safety, I think is essential, not just for us and our community, but I would say for the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Why don't you chime in? Because I've done a lot of talking already.
Well, from my perspective, it seems like both of you are pretty comfortable where you are and speaking who you are. I'm not as comfortable. I'm very comfortable in my home. I'm very comfortable with my beloved, and she knows who I am. I am very uncomfortable in the world and fearful. I don't know where to go to the bathroom. I don't know how to act. I don't know what I want to represent to the world as far as masculinity and my gender. I don't want to be the men my dad was, or the man my dad was, or those men, that generation especially. So I kind of want to redefine masculinity, and I want to try to find a way to take the body out of it, because it
Yeah.
seems like when I'm in the FTM groups, there's a lot of people who aren't happy and they want, well, I'll get on T and I'll grow a beard. Then you see that next person in a month and they're starting to get a little bit of stubble and they're like, okay, I gotta have phalloplasty. Then you'll see, okay, my binders aren't working. I'm gonna have to have top surgery. And I'm thinking, do I have to go through all of that at 61 to be happy? How do I find a place where I'm happy? So I put on Facebook the other day that I'm slowly becoming the person I always was. So I'm kind of in this very beginning journey of that and being able to, I don't even like the word transition. I'm more like the word blossoming or opening up of who I am to the world.
I
Um,
love that.
fully do with her, with them, but I can't with most of the world. So that's where I am.
Yeah.
I think it's important. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Mm.
Because that's super vulnerable. And I think actually where most, if not all of us are at some point or are right now. Um, because I mean, what I like to, for me, what makes sense is starting from what I know to be true in my soul and my heart, that we are important, we have value, we deserve to exist. But we might live in a culture, a neighborhood, a community, a world that is set up to and for and around a binary, cis
Mm.
normative, heterosexual um, structure or framework for understanding. And that doesn't mean that, you know, or so I mean, let me say this another way. So I think it's natural for us, people like us, to feel that discomfort in everything from colors, which are so arbitrary,
Right.
to bathrooms, to the the way department stores label sections or market different kinds of clothing to different people, um and that if you're a cis, you get to take a lot of that for granted because the world kind of reflects your own identity. Whereas for us, it's always a reminder that, oh, this world is not built with us in mind, or prioritizing our spirit or our feelings or our even existence. And that's an injustice. It's not okay. But for me, I guess, because I'm also an adopted child, which I talk about in my special,
Mhm.
where I'm a different ethnicity. My parents are white. I was Asian, am Asian, but I was growing up in a very white part of the world.
Wasn't corn involved?
Yeah, this is in a cornfield. And so for me, the feeling of otherness was always assigned to me. I was told that I was different before I realized, oh, in addition to just looking different, there's a lot inside that's different, right? And it's like for better or for worse. And so for my journey and what I feel like I have to offer the world in my art and just in the way that the things that I put out there, is that if we reverse engineer sort of, right? Like start from the place that, again, I know to be true, like I have value, I have worth, and I may not have the words to describe who I am, but I know who I am. And I don't need to explain it to anyone. Those who really care will want to get it without the words. So you referenced Suzanne, right? Like you feel comfortable with your beloved because your beloved sees you, they get you, and may not have the words for it. Maybe you don't need the words, but it's that whole Zen Buddhist idea of once you have the meaning, you don't need the words. But it's also a paradox because how, as human beings, do we communicate and get to know each other without some kind of shared reality, i.e., language, assigning meaning, etc. For me, it all gets very philosophical, but at the end of the day, it really just boils down to what do I believe?
Yeah.
And if I believe I have a right to feel comfortable, even if the rest of the world hasn't caught up, like that really helps me, move through it. Although I do, sorry, I'm talking a lot. Something I want to offer there, because I am conscientious that just for trans awareness month, that there is an inherent privilege in being able to be perceived by the cis het normative world as cis. It's a privilege. And so there's a lot of that societal stuff mixed in with the internal feeling of dysphoria that we might have with living in our physical bodies. And it's different for every single individual about how tangled, how equal, like one equals the other, or how separate it can be. For me, what prevented me from realizing that I was trans or non-binary on the spectrum of gender, not cisgendering, was that I always felt really at home in my body. What I didn't like was that the way I wanted to express myself with my body, my culture said was only for these people with these parts. And once I kind of embraced, you know what? I like, my chromosomes. I like my, phenotype. I'm okay with a flat chest and a penis. Like that's fine for me. In fact, I like it. I don't dislike it at all. I don't have the dysphoria around that, but I had the dysphoria around my entire world telling me that then was a destiny to do a certain thing, embrace certain things, and express myself in a certain way. And once I let that go, I really feel like I first stepped into discovering freedom with a capital F. We're talking like metaphysical freedom, in being like a queer person in the world. And that also comes with a lot of risk. And we are existentially in danger. I don't want to like be too,
Yeah.
hyperbolic about it, but I mean, it's unfortunately, I think it's true.
Yeah.
Um, and but I also find even that empowering, because my joy and my loving myself and building community with others like me is my resistance.
Hmm.
And I think that we, and this has been true for indigenous cultures throughout time, that trans, non-binary, gender diverse people have been, we have more than one experience of gender and of being perceived in different ways, both othering and included. And I think that a lot of people, even outside of our queer, trans communities, find a lot of inspiration, strength, and courage in knowing that it's possible, no matter who you are, no matter how you fit or not fit into the prescriptions that your society or culture assigns for you, um, that there is an inner power and an inner kind of way to find freedom that is not the same as, social justice kind of freedom,
Mhm.
but can still allow one to live a thriving life until, the day of perfect justice arrives,
Hmm.
Right.
which, I'm always fighting for,
Yeah.
whether or not I believe I'm going to experience it my lifetime. I have to believe that it's possible,
Right. Yeah. You know what? I feel like this is a therapy session. Do you feel, do you feel like you're going to be pondering these
I think
issues for a
so.
while?
I'm just gonna ponder your special, so.
Yeah, right. So this is going to be more. A couple of things resonated for me. And one was the idea of privilege, because I am in an extremely privileged position because the cis het trained society doesn't really view people who seem to be um, female sex, uh, if they don't have to, girls don't have to be super femme, and they're not viewed as threats, or they're not, they don't receive as much negative attention. It's just, we're more acceptable, or so I feel like I am in a position of privilege, not only for that, but also because my gender is something that I am approaching intellectually and rejecting rejecting those expectations and hoping to help bring about this eventuality that you're describing, right? By people just saying, hey, this is just me, this is who I am, and I don't need to line up with whatever. But I don't have the, I don't experience the problematic issues. Sorry, that's the talk
Got a
trying to
puppy?
get through the door.
That's the puppy.
Who warned you about doggy noise? So you just said so much. Why don't you, I'm sure you've got a million
Well, I
thoughts
think
and
it's really
response.
important for us, like what we're doing is saying, this is where I am. And somebody is gonna associate with each one of us, and in between and on both sides. I think that's really important, and to find, I think what another thing that, like what you were saying about being happy in this world, we're gonna throw her
Hold
Cheerios.
on.
Watch this.
Keep going.
Cheerios, they're low
Fast.
calorie and she likes them. I think it's important to find your tribe, or to find a person that can make you feel good about yourself. Like with me, it's Suzanne, and we were lucky enough to be able to move. We used to live in the center of the country in Missouri, and we moved up to New England because it just wasn't safe. It wasn't safe for me to be me. It wasn't
Yeah.
safe for our work, for the advocacy of queer people. We couldn't go shopping. There were things we couldn't do and feel safe. So we were able to move because we worked from home, and we just did it. We said
More
enough.
privilege,
Yeah.
right? I mean, more
Yeah.
privilege.
I mean, at 61, it's like, if I'm not gonna do it now, when am I gonna do it? But that's part of finding our tribe, was to come here and have more people we were safe around, so that we could go to the movies and maybe hold hands, so that I could walk into a family restroom and people not talk as much. I could, before it's
Or
like, where do I
even,
go?
you're talking about queer joy. We attended
Hmm.
a gay, what do you call it, LGBTQ Maine, we live in Maine,
Art
Central
exhibition.
Maine, and no, this was the meeting where it was, it was a bunch of queer people in a room together, which we hadn't, have we ever been
Not
to?
for, not for 8 years in
like
Missouri.
that. And that was just such a joy to be able to just be there and not um, just to
To
be with each
yourself.
other.
It
Yeah,
was very freeing, I thought,
it was.
to be yourself in a group of people who could relate to your world.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
so much so.
So I love what you said about the freedom, and those gradations of freedom. And I think that so the way that you described your own exploration of understanding about yourself lines up with what my conclusions had been, that it was basically that you're okay with your body. Can
Oh,
you tell us more about your identity? I think you describe yourself as non-binary, trans femme, gender queer. What is the last word?
genderqueer.
Yeah, can you
Yeah.
tell us how you are using those terms? Because usually
Yeah.
people tend to just give you one, one phrase, and I'm really curious to hear your description.
Yeah, that's such a good question. Because again, it wraps up our talk about language, because labels are important only so much as they empower and are helpful.
Right,
I again, I'm reluctant to lean on any kind of binary
right,
thinking, including like, oh, labels are always good or always bad,
right,
right?
right.
So let's start from, because I usually start with sort of the highest umbrella and get more specific.
Yep.
But we'll just take it in this order. So for me, I identify in my heart mostly as gender queer,
Mhm.
which is also kind of the most amorphous uh uh identity tag, I guess, for me. And for me, this is not an academic definition. For me, um, gender queer is the way that I describe how I'm kind of like fuck gender, fuck your expectations. um, like I think that I just really lean heavy into the socio-anthropological fact
Mm.
that gender is socially constructed and
Right.
therefore is malleable, changeable, expandable. And when we don't do that, we're like actually contributing to systems of oppression.
Yeah.
Because at least my experience of gender as an American in like the 1980s, 90s, 2000s, dating myself, but I'm Asian. I look 30 forever. Um, uh, and that it's gender has been my experience of gender has been patriarchal oppression. And uh, so my gender queerness is also my intersectional feminism. It is my own personal kind of spiritual and psychological reminder to be mindful of the way I even talk about gender. Like something a friend I was talking about, oh, when I was first transitioning, I'm like, oh, but even, when I was living as a cis boy, I would always wear women's jeans. And they said, jeans marketed to women. And I'm
Ah,
like, well said, right? Because like if we learn stuff, we can unlearn stuff. And so I'm thinking, oh, all the things I take for granted or I took for granted as, living in a cis world as a cis person, before I stopped me from realizing I was trans to begin with. And then I love that, the unfolding, the blossoming of, my trans identity. Um I also have come to embrace the idea that, or for me again, that yeah, I'm not a gender. I definitely want to play with gender, but I also just want to like fuck gender and be all like, well, gender's what I make it. Gender's what you make it. Gender's what, and can't we all just agree that it can be empowering and beautiful instead of oppressive? So
my
that's
daughter called herself a gender anarchist not too long ago, and I decided I needed to adopt that for sure,
yeah,
for
for
all those
real.
reasons.
I love that.
Yeah.
So then going down the line, identify as trans feminine, in that I, unlike many, not all, unlike many trans women who embrace a certain amount of cis or binary feminine things uh to be in their identity, binary trans women, and some and especially in older generations that dealt with a completely harder landscape of um outness and transness and understand, or even like access to trans healthcare and wellness and stuff.
Yeah, all of it.
um I have met some in the community who even just identify as women, lowercase w, and if they're in the right company, they will say that they're women of trans experience.
Mm,
Whereas like the trans part isn't even part of their identity. It was
yeah,
just, a moment in time
right.
in their life. Um, so there's that. I'm like to, instead of just saying, even though I move through the world as a woman, and I'm an intersectional feminist, and I
Mhm.
get perceived and treated as a cis woman in the world, for the most part. Um, just for my own accuracy, but also like advocacy for just awareness of the broadness of gender.
Yeah,
Instead of just saying I'm a trans woman, I say trans feminine because I'm okay with being a woman with a dick. I
right.
think that's 100% okay.
Yeah,
Like the intersex spectrum is amazing, from like microscopic like DNA to
mhm.
like full on phenotypical things with the way your physical body, the genes express themselves.
And even
Um,
brain structure.
Right.
and brain, so yeah,
Even brain structure.
so I think it's important to, that's my way
Right.
of, advocating passively, in that, there's a bigger world than
Yeah,
just M and F.
right.
Um, and then of course, non-binary. So within the binary, I lean femme, but also non-binary in the fact that, again, like genderqueer, I kind of resist that I have to be
Yeah,
like masculine femme.
right.
And I would like just sort of additional axes.
Yeah. Well, that is kind of
um,
perfect. And
you know,
we're gonna need to wrap up because I think that that is kind of perfect. That's my goal for the future, for this future of
Mm,
justice that you're talking about, is that, ultimately it would be great if we didn't need to have these binaries, and that there wouldn't be so much pain. And you see a lot of pain in people striving for something that for a lot of people isn't going to be achievable, right? It's an ideal. Um, and that those ideals happen within the binary columns as well, right? We
and
have
those ideals hurt cis people too.
exactly that,
They hurt, just like, who was it? Was it Bell Hooks? Somebody said the first victims of patriarchy are the men, because it
mm,
separates them from their emotions and
yeah,
being able to see other genders as human beings.
yeah,
Like, similarly, I think that within our cis binary gender construct, that cis people are wounded,
right.
as well.
Yeah,
It's not a competition about who gets it more, but I would
no,
say the whole world and all of us and all of our communities interdependently, suffer
right.
because of it. Um,
1000%.
I agree.
And so it's hard because we want that future. At the same time, we recognize the present and we recognize people's frustrations um, with their levels of dysphoria, the differing degrees of dysphoria and the different causes, the different, I think there's so many ways of being trans and under this trans umbrella. Um, that, my heart is always just be yourself. I want to say
Mm.
just be whatever it is you are, just be that, right? And
yeah.
take the pressure off yourself. But that's very presumptuous of me to be able to say.
Well, because different people have different, I totally feel you on that, because for me it was always easy to be myself because I'm a
Yeah,
very self-oriented. I mean, I'm an entertainer, I'm
yeah,
an
right.
artist, and like I'm cerebral with my own, grandiosity of my own shit. Like, so for me, it was very easy to just be myself. That just
Right.
means not censoring whatever the fuck I want to say or do, because I'm an artist, I express.
Yeah,
But for other people, it's like, so it's like, be yourself. It's like, yeah, but that's nothing without a how.
right.
How does one be yourself? So I guess as we're, if are we wrapping up soon?
We are wrapping up. Yep.
Right. Let's,
So give us
I'd like
all
to,
your best stuff right now. No pressure.
well, I would like to offer this as sort of a closing idea. It's something that I've been working on, that I've been working with, is the how for
Yeah.
figuring out who you are.
Yeah.
I would suggest asking yourself, what do you love and what are you good at?
Mm.
And it may not be a direct route to, oh, this is who you are. But for me, it helps balance, the more like intangible, mind, heart, metaphysical, philosophical, emotional things that are, what do I love? And what does that say about me, right? I love art. I love telling stories. I love connecting deeply. I love chocolate. I love dogs. And it's like, well, maybe that won't give me an occupation or a calling in life, but knowing what you love gives value to your love.
Mm.
And if that love can be turned inward and you can love yourself, I think it all uses the same sort of brain waves or mind plasticity or whatever it's called.
Yeah, it reinforces all that.
And then on the other hand, what are you good at?
Yeah.
Helps you be active and empowered and have agency in your life. So if what you're good at is really just brushing your hair, that's good enough. It does not need to be saving the world. It does not need to be solving climate change. It does not need to be saving lives. What are you good at? Are you good at calming your sister down when she has an anxiety attack? What are you good at? And I now ask people this when I meet them instead of, hey, what's your name and what do you do?
Yeah.
It's what do you love and what are you good at?
Oh,
And I
nice.
almost always get a satisfying, if not really rewarding,
Yeah.
connected conversation
Kind of fascinating,
with people.
fascinating answer.
So that's
Yeah.
my thing. And I just want to kind of
That's
offer
great.
that. It's not even mine. I want to offer it. I would like everyone to take that and
Own it.
embrace it to the degree that you are comfortable with.
How about you? Any last thoughts?
Gosh,
'Cause that was so
how do I
good.
top that?
I don't think you can.
That's so fantastic.
no top.
And
Not a
being you-
competition. We're just
Not a
all
competition.
mixing it together in a loving stew.
I think the point you're making is to be you and be happy where you are and find those things that make you happy. And I see a lot of people, because I'm on social media doing our work 8 to 10 hours a day, that are in so much pain. They're trying to be what society wants them to be instead of be who they are. And if you can stop right there, like you're saying, that advice, what do you love and what are you good at? I
Yeah.
think that's great.
Well, thank you so much. We might end at any second. So thank you so much, Nikki. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank
It's great.
you.
You guys, you take care.
Cheers.
Bye.